back to Frederick Advice Givers, episode 164. I'm Eric Verdi. To my left here is Josh Chernikoff, good friend and returning guest on Advice Givers. We were together about 2 years ago now. We were episode 31. So we were in the beginning when we weren't doing this on video. I think we did a Skype call or something, did we?
I don't know if we had to do a Skype call or radio. Times were different 2 years ago, right?
Times were totally different. So Josh is a serial entrepreneur. He started a couple businesses. He comes from a media background. He grew up here locally. Married, one kid, two kids?
One kid.
One kid, how old?
She's going to be 4 in a week.
Okay, yeah, so yes, I remember us having a conversation. She was very young when we did our first interview. We were running around.
She's growing up.
So Josh is back to kind of tell his evolution as an entrepreneur. He has built and grown Flex Academies. He's also had Tutors, which was what you have sold.
Yes.
You recently sold that.
Yes.
So before we go into your business acumen, give us your backstory, where you grew up, family, kids, give us your start, your origin story.
I mean, I think it's important, and I guess people from this area always point out, I was born in Washington, D.C., actual Washington, D.C. I did grow up in Bethesda. I went to American University, so I've been back in D.C. since 1997 and really haven't left. I live in Capitol Hill.
Okay.
And so my background is like probably most serial entrepreneurs like this.
Right.
But mainly media. After graduating from AU, I went and got my master's in broadcast journalism at Northwestern, and probably a week after graduating, I was at channel WHSV in Harrisonburg, Virginia, doing the weekend sports, you know, and I was basically, it's out 66, down 81. I was 2 hours from DC. And so we were covering everything from, a JV field hockey game,
right,
if there was a human interest story, all the way to the Redskins. And so that was really exciting for me. Did that for a couple years. Decided to try some new activities, doing some marketing at a museum in Philadelphia. Happened to run into an old friend who brought me in to work for the Redskins. And so I was at the start of the Redskins broadcast network, with Larry Michael and some other wonderful people, and some great relationships I still have today. It was wonderful to be inside the Redskins organization. I learned a lot, I think, seeing how Mr. Snyder ran his team, and then I decided I wanted to start my own team, and that happened to be through a tutoring company that I started in 2007.
So what is that switch or that moment? Like, how do you go from broadcast journalism to running a tutoring company, and how does that structure work? Like, where do you find your tutors? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know if you have enough tape for me to tell you that whole story, but what I can tell you is that I always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit. Mm-hmm. I can remember the first lawnmower I bought. It was named Randall. It was green, like Randall Cunningham, right, I think. But I was pushing, that lawnmower and carrying bags at Bethesda Country Club, caddying these bags were taller than me at that point. And so I think you have that spirit. And then again, when I decided that being with the Redskins at that point, I was ready for a change, I said, let's do something on my own. So I started this tutoring company with a friend of mine, and it just grew from there. And then really the catalyst to help grow this company, of course, went back to my journalism days, because the company started in October of 2007. In April, May of 2008, we were featured on NBC4. I pitched a really relevant story to a friend of mine, and when Jim and Doreen, from Channel 4, talk about you, you're good to go. And to this day, the fact that Ashley Tutors was featured on NBC4 still helps when it comes to SEO and name recognition.
I guarantee you. I mean, it's you don't know what piece of content or what piece of media that you're going to put out there that's going to have an effect and have an influence and a massive impact on your growth. Obviously, being on NBC4 with Jim and Doreen helps,
huge,
but it's all about putting that content out there, getting your name out there, getting your brand out there, getting the word out there.
And it was a relevant story,
right,
which I think was the most important thing. And I believe in the media as the best tool to get you good PR.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put a good story in front of a journalist, then they're going to help you out because they're always looking for good stories.
Right.
And this was timely, this was local, and it worked, and they ran with it.
So this is Ashley Tutors this was about.
Correct.
So when did you start Flex Academy? So Ashley was what, 07, 08?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Flex Academies?
So Ashley Tutors started, and in the first couple of years, I was asked by a PTA president to run a homework club. And I'll never forget it. This PTA president said, all you have to do is have the tutors. I will get you paid. I will get you space. I will get you promoted. And I'll make sure that there are kids there. And I'm like, this is fantastic, because I would have done this for free.
Right.
Because to me, the idea was that my tutors get to be in the classroom, and this is basically promotion for my company. Right. After school, part of the community. Worked out really well, and was able to get some long-term clients out of it to do some one-to-one tutoring. In the process, I think, again, my journalism kicked back in, and I was talking to this particular mom and asking her why she was doing all these things for us. I was wondering why my background check wasn't being checked at the time, why nobody checked my certificate of insurance to make sure I had a general liability insurance, and all these things. And she said, well, this is kind of the role of the kind of the top 1% of PTA parents at this particular school. They have to bring in the enrichment programs if they want them, and then they have to manage them. And then I thought, there's a business, because I've got a tutoring company. My cousin was running a basketball program. I knew somebody who did pottery. I knew somebody who did magic. So why don't I help manage these for the PTAs for this particular mom who did a wonderful thing for me, bringing me in. Right. And then it just had to all fall in place, and I found a great PTA president, a great principal, and I went to them and I said, I can manage this program for you. As long as you get me the space, I will make sure that the registration system is right for your parents. I will make sure that these are safe, background checked folks that come in through the front door of your school. And then, went from one school to 5 to 15, and now we're at about 80 schools up and down the East Coast, 6 states.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's take this back to a human level.
Yeah.
What's the last purchase that you splurged on for yourself or your family?
Let's see here. That is a good question. I recently upgraded my Jeep Wrangler.
Okay.
From a 2000 to a 2014.
Okay.
Because I realized that I knew I wasn't handy, but I didn't realize I was super not handy.
Right.
And there were some things breaking on this Jeep, and I said, this is probably not a good idea. My wife absolutely agreed with me. Although I love that Jeep. It was like brown top with white. And
right.
So I upgraded that, and that's nice to be able to not have to worry about your car breaking down.
All right, so second part of that question. So what hobby or interest could you spend hours doing? And being an entrepreneur, I kind of have an idea of where this is going to go, but what do you do when you're downtime or when you're not doing the grind of being a business owner?
I have been able to combine my Jeep Wrangler with what I've been doing recently, which is listening to a lot of podcasts. I certainly listen to what you do. Right now, I am binging.
Who are your top 2 or 3? Who are you binging on?
I am binging, and I probably need to go backwards now on How I Built This with Guy Raz from NPR.
Okay.
I have listened to every single one, and probably some of them multiple times. The guy who started Cliff Bar, or Steve Madden, was an amazing story. And so driving around, visiting all of our schools, right. Especially in this area, I've been able to combine that. So I'm always searching for podcasts, because I've found that that's the way I learn. And so I can
through listening to others.
Yeah, and just take
telling
that
you the
information.
steps of what they did.
Not only steps of what they've done well, but of course all the steps of what they've done poorly, or not as well, which helps me feel more comfortable with my journey as an entrepreneur. Because certainly, I made some mistakes in starting my first company, and in Flex Academies, we certainly have our ups and downs every single day with owning that company.
So you said you're in 80 different schools?
Yes.
So do you have a right-hand man or woman that manages the day-to-day operations for you, or is that pretty much you?
As the company has grown, we have added regional directors. We have basically one in Connecticut, one in New York, one in New Jersey, and one in the DC area. And then they have people work with them. I have somebody on my staff who is our director of business development, who is basically kind of the coach of the team.
Okay.
And he's really emerged as somebody that a lot of people on our team can talk to, which is fantastic. It's been interesting to me as a business owner to kind of go from the only person on the team to kind of part of the team. And now it's not that I'm not part of the team, but I'm on a different position on the team. And so I think it's really helpful to have somebody on my staff that I can rely on, that can certainly be that person and can come to me in confidence. But I know there are some things that this particular person on my team knows that it's important that he just keeps it among the team.
Right.
And I've had to learn that lesson, that I'm not necessarily kind of in the same position on the bus as I was when I started the company.
So have you read the book Rocket Fuel?
No.
So they talk about successful companies like Apple had Steve Jobs and it had Wozniak, okay? Where you have the visionary and then you have the integrator.
Right.
Okay, so the integrator sounds like your team member that manages the day-to-day, coaches the regionals, stuff like that. So for any company, even Warren Buffett, I forget who Warren Buffett's right-hand man is, but Warren Buffett's the visionary and then there's an integrator behind the scenes. That basically you have to have two distinct roles within a company if you want to achieve massive growth.
Right.
So read Rocket Fuel. It's a pretty interesting book.
Well, I haven't read that, but another podcast that I've been listening to is Reid Hoffman, and he talked about escape velocity.
Okay.
Which I didn't know what that meant before, and then I kind of researched what that meant. And so I think to achieve that escape velocity for a business, you have to go through all these wonderful, exciting events,
right?
And then also really the rough ones as well. And so I have experienced those, went through them with Ashley Tutors, and we've gone through them with Flex Academies as well.
So Josh, when you wake up in the morning, what's the drive inside of you that keeps you going instead of going to get a 9-to-5 job? And what's your drive? What's your why?
I think this sounds cheesy to say, but I just feel lucky to be in this position, the sense of being able to do what I want every single day. I always kind of talk to the people on my team or people who are starting a business, is that, and today happens to be Friday, but no day is a Friday and every day is a Friday when you own your own business, in the sense of if you want to work today, do it. Right. If you don't, but you're going to have to. My mom worked for Bill Bradley, the senator, for many years, and one of his, we used to have a pin in our house in Rockville that said, when you're not practicing, somebody else is. And when you're not working, somebody else is.
Right.
I know for Flex Academies that we have competitors out there who are doing a fantastic job, and I bet in this moment, literally in this moment, they're working on their business.
Right.
And I'm working on the business as well, because we're talking through this, but at the same time, they might be doing something innovative in this moment that could change the whole business. And so good for them. Right. But I think that we're fortunate as entrepreneurs to have reached a point that running a business, whether you expected it to be in real estate or I expected to be, in the enrichment kid business, you have achieved a point where you can certainly sustain the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, with being an entrepreneur and business owner, it's not a linear line up. Like, you have good days, you have bad days, you have good months, bad months, but you're always learning. Like those bad times, is when you like learn the most and how to get to that next peak, because there's always peaks and valleys, right?
I mean, every single day,
right.
every single hour.
Yep.
I mean, truly. I mean, you can open an email that makes you feel so good about what you're doing, and then you can get a phone call that reminds you that you have so much work left to do.
Right.
And I think it's important just to kind of hopefully stay level, you know, and learn, take the good,
right,
keep doing that, and then take the bad and figure out how you can, you know, avoid kind of that latest valley.
So Josh, what advice would you give a fellow entrepreneur that's just starting out? Maybe a short, I mean, you've obviously learned a lot in your, 10, 11 years, 12 years?
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah. Now that's if you're not counting Randall the lawnmower.
Okay.
Back when I was 13, because I don't know where Randall is right now, but yeah, 10 years since I started Ashley Tutors. I think that if I could go back and talk to, you know, Josh back then, a couple things I would tell Josh is to focus, focus every single day. And that doesn't mean saying I'm going to focus. That means sitting down and writing out what you're going to do every single day, literally minute by minute, half hour by half hour, hour by hour. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I definitely at one point was diagnosed with ADHD. You know, I've been able to harness that. But I think what I would do now is harness the ADHD to be able to do multiple things, but then also have a plan every single day. I think I would tell people and tell myself back then is to do what you're good at and then hire people to do what they're good at.
Yep.
Don't try and be everything. You know, that being said, you can't just have everybody do everything for you, because you're not going to make any money. And you're not going to learn your business. You got to learn your business. But when it comes to search engine optimization, I was lucky to have found, you know, who I think to be one of the greatest SEO people in the world. And after trying it myself,
right, that
was a waste of time. I found a great registration system for Ashley Tutors very early on, and that relationship actually continues today. And I remember trying to do invoices and send reports to parents. I found that, you know, but what I was good at, you know, which is lots of different things I found out, but especially pitching stories.
Right.
You know, I took that time to pitch that story, and again, to this day, I'm still talking about that because it was very impactful. I would say grow the business from within, which is very gratifying, because
explain.
Elaborate. So if you kind of think about starting a business, I don't think you want to spend a lot of money on Facebook. Facebook certainly didn't exist back then, but you don't need to spend a lot of money on ads or things like that. When you're starting your business, figure out who you know and what you know. And so we talked about what you know, which is what you do well, but who you know. So, you know, do you know, are you involved in a church and you know the pastor who knows the executive director of a school? Go have a meeting with that person and then offer to help them with their education. You know, that's what I was doing in the tutoring business and providing free tutoring. You know, do you know teachers? Go talk to them. You know, so grow the business from within it. You know, all it costs then is your time, manage it well, and coffee. So get prepared to drink a lot of coffee.
Right.
And then I also think that, you know, have fun.
So I think, let me just interject right here.
Yeah.
So what you're really saying, and we had talked about in the pre-interview is what our strengths are, and I think our strengths are kind of similar, is that we're not big extroverts. You know, we're more so, we stay in our little comfort level, our little bubble. We do it very well, but I think what you're saying is you're really in the relationship business.
Yes.
Right? So you have the relationship with the pastor who might get you into the school or whatever. So
yes.
focus on forging those relationships, and kind of the rest, it takes care of itself. And that's been my been my model for 16 years in real estate, and also in Frederick Advice Givers, is I get to meet people like you who introduce me to somebody else, or we follow back up, whatever. So life and specifically business, unless you're going massive scale,
right.
Like if you're going massive scale, then you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a month advertising or getting people that you don't know. But when you're smaller, when you're up and down the East Coast and you're dealing with the kids and the families, and I'm dealing with families and kids myself, right. It's all about the relationship.
And when you think about it now in 2018, we sound like old entrepreneurs or something like that, but we've kind of seen a shift in how networking happens. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's two types of networking that you can do. There's certainly in person, which is followed up by a handwritten thank you note. Mm-hmm. Okay, but there's also the networking that you can do through LinkedIn, mm-hmm. through Facebook, and you can go down some deep rabbit holes, of course, but if you are able to focus yourself when you're on LinkedIn, and the more you put into something like that, the more you're going to get out. And so I think you can also do a lot of networking and a lot of relationship building using the internet. Mm-hmm. It can be a big distraction,
socially, right?
But use LinkedIn to kind of grow that network and grow those relationships, and that's great.
All right, Josh. So in the last 3 years, what's one choice that's led you to where you are today?
One choice. I mean, I hate to tell you that that's impossible for me to answer, because I think...
Or one business decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the last 3 years, what's a business decision or overall growth or strategy that you took that's led you to repositioning yourself in your two businesses? Does that make more sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think that right now, what I can tell you today is Flex Academies, our business has grown, and through growth, there's always bumps and bruises.
Right.
And one of the biggest bumps that I've ever been on professionally has led me to a different stage in my career professionally. I've been able to learn from somebody about how to be a better, maybe more firm CEO. Mm-hmm. It hasn't, being firm and putting my foot down and telling people no is not necessarily in my DNA, but I had to develop that. And so a couple decisions that I made and we made as a group have led to a tough time, and you come to a fork in the road, and it's either I'm going to learn from this, mm-hmm. or I'm just going to go veer off here. And I had to learn from it. And so I think I have become a smarter, tougher, different CEO than I was literally a year ago.
So I want to follow that up with, tell us about you selling off Ashley Tutors.
Yeah.
Or
that was a big decision. Mm-hmm. I mean, as you know, your businesses are your children, mm-hmm. and they are a part of you every single day, much like your children are. And Ashley Tutors was my first baby, and Ashley Tutors has grown up to a point where it was ready to be in the hands of a bigger business that wanted to do something different with the company. And I fully believe in the company that purchased it, mm-hmm. and their vision for Ashley Tutors, because I wanted to know that my baby that I had started was in good hands, that the tutors that I had worked with for many years were in good hands, and that the families were also in good hands who we were tutoring. Mm-hmm. And I feel very good about all those things. So now that Ashley Tutors has moved on, I am helping, and I'm grateful that they're asking me questions and I'm able to direct, but at the same time they're making decisions, and I'm seeing, okay, yeah, that is a good idea. And so, it's nice to see that company has moved on, is in good hands, and will still be a part of the Washington, D.C. area going forward.
Awesome. All right, Josh. So you were episode 164. I have sat across the microphone with 163 other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I get to learn by asking questions, which is one of the beauties and why we do Advice Givers, is it gives me nuggets every interview.
Yeah.
So I want to flip the script here and have you ask me a question. It can be business, personal, whatever.
Yeah. So having listened to multiple episodes of how I built this, I am going to kind of take a page out of Guy Raz's book, the way that he closes out, at least every single podcast I've ever heard, is he says, tell me how much of your success that you have is luck and how much is it of you just doing the right thing day in and day out. Because you're successful. You've got a bunch of different things going
That's
on.
an awesome question. I like that. I might have to steal that.
Hey,
and I think you borrowed it.
Yeah, I borrowed it.
Honestly, I think you make your own luck. Hard work. To say one is lucky, when you're in business and you're in the grind, you're in the day-to-day, it's almost like go to being, he's an overnight success. Okay? You hear about all these overnight successes. What you don't hear and see is the 10 years that they took to be an overnight success. Yeah. Like we had talked about, you had that NBC4 interview, and that was a tipping point. Okay, that was very early on in your career with Ashley, right?
Absolutely.
But that was a tipping point. And it was kudos to you for getting on NBC4 and having that. Now, were you lucky? Did you make the phone calls to get there? Did you do the hard work? Did you have the system in place?
Yes.
Probably. Was it who you knew? Yeah, it was probably who you knew that got you in and to getting that featured story on NBC4. I don't think anybody's lucky. I think going back to what we had talked about earlier, I think if you have those relationships, luck kind of seizes itself. Actually, this interview will have recorded. I'm on a panel next week with Grant Cardone, with Billy G and his marketing. In DC, I've been asked to be on a panel with all these big people that are much higher up and do much bigger and better things than me. But little old Eric, he got asked to be on it because of a relationship and an interview that I did with somebody else. And they were like, well, you should reach out to Eric because he does a podcast. He has a videographer. So I think you make your own luck. If I hadn't grinded for 164 episodes, they wouldn't have known about me.
Right.
But it's going to be an overnight. He was on a panel with Grant Cardone, who's a famous speaker or whatever. That's a great question. So 0% luck, 100% relationships and hard work.
Yeah, and so as
do you agree?
As you're telling me that, and I'm listening, part of my mind is retracing my steps back to, I can literally trace that NBC4 interview and getting that to essentially joining fraternity at AU in 1997. Because the person that I met there, a relationship that I valued, continues today, and he's still doing a wonderful job at NBC4, and they're still the top station in our market, and that's where that all started. And so it was building that relationship, keeping that relationship going, fostering it, nurturing it, but then a timely story and pitching it the right way and prepping the right way. And so, it goes back to 1997. You could probably trace it even further back because my dad went to AU.
Right.
So here we are today. And I think you do a fantastic job. I mean, you're one of the podcasts that I binge listen to and now binge watch. I love what you've done with this. So I think you do a fantastic job. Awesome.
So Josh, where do you see yourself in 3 years and then 10 years? This could be a combination of personal and or business. Either way. So you'll probably be in DC or around DC, right?
Who knows? The ride has been wild for the last 10 years, and my wife Bettina has been on it. And so I think that I need to talk to her about what the ride's going to be like for the next 10 years. I think that Flex Academies, our business is in a really nice place, and so we'll see where that goes. I just know that in 3 years or in 10 years, I'll be a different person. And I'm okay with that, because right now when I think about myself almost at 40, the type of person I am, the type of business person I am, I want to be stronger and better and more successful in 10 years.
Right.
And I'm comfortable with where I am right now. And I look forward to looking back, much like I do when I was 30. When I'm 50, I'll look back at 40 and say, I couldn't do those things, but now I can because I grew.
Right. Constant growth and evolution.
Absolutely.
So Josh, how would our listeners, viewers, find out more about Flex Academies, about you? Give us any information you want there.
I mean, there's not. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about my journey. So I'm obviously on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Maybe one day I'll be on a panel. That would be very cool. I think right now that the most important thing I'm doing is growing Flex Academies, and Flex Academies is not about Josh Chernikoff. I think to a degree, Ashley Tutors was about me, but I made a conscious decision to make sure that company was more about the families and the tutors so that it could get to a point that it could be acquired. Flex Academies is absolutely about the team that is around me. What's most important is that if people want to learn about Flex Academies, go to flexacademies.com, contact us. If you are an enrichment provider in one of our schools or in an area, we'd love to help you grow your business. If you're a PTA parent that wants to have a great enrichment program that's safe, that's sustainable, contact us. If you just want to talk business, contact me.
Awesome. Listeners, viewers, hope you enjoyed episode 164 with my buddy Josh Chernikoff. Frederick Advice Givers, we are out.